Hello, I'm Sarah Kocianski and welcome to FinTech Insider on Air. This is episode 17. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much if you've joined us previously. We had a load of people watch us live last week and even more joined us afterwards. So if you haven't already though, do go and check out last week's show. We spoke to Adam Dodds and Ian Fuller from Free Trade about why investing is important. But this week, we're going to be talking about global banking and how Moniz now has 1 million customers. And to discuss this topic, I am joined by Norris Koppel, who is the CEO and founder of Moniz. How are you today?
I'm very good, and the sun came out. I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, it was pouring with rain all morning. I'm just saying I haven't quite dried out yet. So first of all, congratulations, 1 million customers.
Thank you. Significant milestone for sure.
Absolutely. So do you want to start by telling people who are viewing a little bit about Moniz if they haven't heard of you before? So what's your proposition? Who do you target? That kind of thing.
Sure. Moniz was born from my own personal pain. When I moved to the UK, I couldn't open a simple bank account, and I thought maybe there is something that can be done. So basically, Moniz is a financial services company that provides banking services. And the things that we do differently than many others is that we are hugely international. Mm-hmm. We have a very global focus, and we want to provide banking services to anyone, anywhere. So imagine a situation where you move to the US, for example, or to Germany, and you need a new bank to set up your new life and so on. So Moniz is basically built for people like you in those instances.
And how quickly have you got to 1 million customers? How long have you guys been around?
So we launched in 2015, September, along many other companies at the same time. Mm-hmm. But we actually built a service. We started building the service a couple of years before that. And we really wanted to get some of the key foundations right. So first of all, we built our own core banking technology to run the platform, and also we built our KYC technology, which basically is customer identity checking technology, making sure that if people are from abroad, we can still provide them access to financial services, which was at the time was incredibly unique, and there was no other financial services company, or let's say banking services, that actually could give current accounts to those who are from abroad. Day one.
So would you say that was the cornerstone to your success, that ability to serve everybody from day one?
I think initially that was definitely the case, and right now it still carries us. But I think the way product currently works and how it looks and behaves, I think right now that's the most important bit.
So what makes you stand out? Because obviously we can't deny that there are a lot of other current account products out there, particularly in the UK and increasingly so in Europe. So what makes Moniz stand out from that, other than this ability to onboard anybody from without say for a UK address?
Sure. I think Moniz is, along with many other players, is on top of the banking revolution wave at the moment, which is fantastic for the customers, because everything is changing for better, for cheaper, faster, and what was completely impossible back in 2015, let's say, right now is seen as a norm, really. Mm-hmm. And how we stand apart is that we have an international focus, and we want to give customers the freedom to thrive anywhere on the planet. Financially, I mean. So again, example, when you choose to move to another country with a single tap, you get accounts, cards, everything up and running. No need to worry, we're there for you. So that's, I think, is definitely a key thing. And how we support this is extreme localization as well. So we currently support 12 languages. We have personal banking, we have small business banking as well. So again, complete lifestyle support. And we have many other things apart from current accounts and debit cards and remittance also coming. So we're working on things like credit, for example, and many other products. And the idea is that we will completely replace mainstream banks, so you don't really need anyone else apart from us.
So to talk a little bit there about the 12 languages, so you offer complete support in 12 different languages. Those are all European languages, I'm guessing? No?
There's others as well.
There are others as well. So what languages do you, which languages do you support?
You're not making me to count all the languages.
No.
But main ones, of course, Germany, German language, so Spanish language, Italian, and so on.
Okay, so but some outside of European as well?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you also have bases in those countries? Because in order to do that, I mean, you can find proficient speakers of those languages in the UK. I'm fully aware there are people out there with many more linguistic skills than me. But do to provide that hyper-localization and presumably services that meet local cultural needs? Do you have teams on the ground in some of those places as well?
We are slowly getting there. So right now we have 4 offices in Europe alone. So head office is here in the UK. We have a big office in Tallinn, Estonia also, where the company is actually has majority of its base. So backend and some customer support is over there. Portugal also recently, and Germany now. We have a couple of people in Germany. But again, early days. We are now putting more boots on the ground in our key target countries at the moment.
Do you think that's important to have boots on the ground, sort of outside? If you're trying to serve this particularly international audience, rather than just having a base in London, do you think it's important to have people out there as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you have key countries, for example, for us, let's say Germany and France and so on, it's as the time passes and as a customer base grows, I think it's really, really important to have actually a team on the ground who are able to talk to customers there on a daily basis. And it would be impossible just to kind of try to sort of pull all the strings from London.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
absolutely. And to talk a little bit about the demographics. So what kind of people use Moniz? Obviously international travellers we've talked about, but what sort of maybe age range or what kind of jobs do they have? And also maybe if you can give us a little bit of insight into maybe where are they based? So are they largely in the UK or are they largely in Estonia? Just a little bit of insight.
Yeah, when we started, it was just in the UK, and we saw that 85% of all customers who onboarded were non-English speakers living in Britain. But right now, as the time passes, we see that, for example, in France, we have majority of the customers are actually French living in France.
Wow!
And in Germany, we see similar patterns. It's even bigger shift towards Germans living in Germany. So you can see that it's not just sort of a product that works exactly the same in each market. And typically our customers are around sort of between 32, 34 years old, predominantly still male. So we have this diversity topic. So we are sort of in a good shape, but still it's not still not balanced yet.
And professionals, I imagine, so there are people who are earning a salary. So you talk about international accounts, and I think a lot of people instantly jump to maybe migrants or people who are struggling at the lower end of the income scale. But your product, I presume, would suit them as well. But a lot of your current clients and customers are professionals working in and around.
Yeah. So as you said, so we basically it's just everyday people, people like you and I, and people who are earning salaries, getting paid. In fact, also we have recognized, we have noticed that 70% or even beyond of all incoming funds are actually salary payments. So we're seeing basically majority of people using Moniz as their primary.
So 70% of customers have their salary coming into their Moniz account.
Yeah, basically over 70% of the funds. Yeah, so it's pretty. That's a really, really good signal, very strong signal, I would say.
Absolutely.
And I think that's also one of the key differentiators. When you asked about how we differ, because we have. I think one of the aspects why we have achieved this is that because when customers come to a new country, they obviously have an existing bank partnership in their home country. But when they come to, let's say, London, they need to set up a new bank account. And this is where we welcome them. And once you have customers' salary and loyalty and so on, I mean, they don't really have any good reasons to go to another bank.
Absolutely. And I guess if you're talking a lot about if your primary... The people you targeted to start with, people like yourself who came to the UK and had a job to go to, it was the account that was the problem. So it wasn't necessarily finding the job.
Yeah.
If you've already got the job and the account you can open is in, to give to your new employer takes minutes, then again, as you said, why would you go through that pain of trying to switch it to somewhere else?
And I think when we initially started also, I mean, many customers maybe used us as a sort of a stepping stone because initially we only had current accounts and cards, and as the customers sort of move on in their lives, they need other products as well. But I think there is a clear shift that is currently happening. So our service looks good. I mean, it's elegant, it's cost effective, and it's works in 31 countries at the moment. And as we are adding more functionality such as credit and so on, we are step by step taking away the need to actually use any other products.
And just to touch on something you said there as well, if Am I correct in saying that if I have a UK account in pounds, I can also have a euro account? So if I am somebody who happens to be working 6 months in London and 6 months in Portugal or whatever it is, then I just need the one account.
So we believe in freedom to choose. So the idea is to wherever you are, with a single tap, you are part of that new ecosystem, financial ecosystem. You don't need it anymore. You close it and you move on. So it's giving you the tools to thrive anywhere, really.
And I think that's so important as well because you talk about maybe, for example, Monzo is a great product if I'm traveling abroad on holiday. But if, for example, I'm a freelancer and I'm being paid in euros some months and I'm being paid in pounds another month, this is a genuine scenario that a friend of mine's husband has. He gets paid in euros for 6 months of the year and pounds the other 6 months of the year. Being able to have that paid into a euro account is hugely beneficial.
I think this flexibility is increasingly important in the modern world. I mean, people are moving around more than ever before. You have freelancers. I've been a freelancer myself. Providing services to, let's say, American companies. They send you, dollars
or a check,
And I mean, the systems that you use, your financial systems, need to be flexible enough to give you the tools that you really need. You don't want to spend time running around, sort of trying to open accounts all over the bloody place. And
or money opening accounts as well,
or pay for those services.
Absolutely. So we talked quite a lot about the services you provided. You touched on there that you have quite a few customers in France and in Germany who are French and German citizens. Now, in France and Germany, there are other neobanks. You're not the only player in the market. So why do you think maybe people are choosing to use you? And what's your perspective on the European neobank landscape? If we take the UK out of it for a minute, because I think the UK is slightly different. If we look at maybe France or Germany in particular. Why are you different to maybe N26? And also, do you think there's space for all these players? What's next in Europe?
I just saw a research that highlighted the European players and brand awareness and so on, and I'm very glad to see that Moniz actually had pretty good awareness there. But on top of the list, there were actually neobanks that were not actually new neobanks at all. They were spin-offs of legacy banks and so on. And in
like
Europe,
Hello Bank or something in France.
So it's very clear that whilst in the UK we have lots of good offers on the table, and I mean the customers have plenty of choice. In Europe, is not necessarily the case at the moment, and we see that there is so much opportunity in Europe for many other players. And customers, they try one product, the other product, and eventually they choose what they like. And I think generally think that there is so much opportunity that we are not rubbing any shoulders with anyone anytime soon.
You're not stepping on each other's toes.
I don't think so. No.
So you mentioned sort of credit and those other products. Do you find that we touched on this a little bit when you said boots on the ground? But if you're looking at those markets, how different do you think those customers are? Because we hear a lot of neobanks, particularly the UK ones, saying, oh, we're going to go to Europe, or we're going to go to the US. Now, my personal opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, is that people in France treat their money very differently to people in Germany, maybe to people in Estonia. I don't know many Estonians other than yourself. So do you find it sort of you have to make sure that your product is specialised for those markets beyond just providing support in the local language?
Yeah, this is where the localization comes in, and I said boots on the ground and so on. So it's very clear that a product that works very well in the UK may not necessarily do so in the US or let's say Germany. Being in Germany for over a year now, we can very clearly see that the audience and the behaviors are completely different. So, for example, Germans are super focused on cash, and the ATM limits need to be much bigger than here in the UK and so on. And so it's a very cash-driven economy, and people don't really trust banks that much. So, I mean, you really have to think through before you go and invest in a new market.
I mean, I find that cash point, I've heard that cash point many times before. I find it slightly mad, but that's just, to one side. How, as a company, do you approach that problem? Because we hear quite a lot, and we've heard from N26 that it's very expensive to service customers with cash, particularly when the product you're offering, as you do, is heavily digital. How do you approach that? What's your approach to that? Because you have to strike a balance, presumably, between charging customers fees and then charging them too much and putting them off.
Yes, there is always a balance. I mean, as you said, it's not free. It's actually quite costly, and the question is whether you pass the whole cost all to your customers, or you maybe take some of the cost yourself. So we have been from day one. We have been thinking, okay, how does our customer look like, and do they need cash or not? And do we want to be a purely digital play, or maybe we support cash as well? And the answer has always been yes, we do need cash. And only a small segment of our customers use cash, but it's very these people are super vocal, and they demand these services. So therefore, to give customers what they need, we have built a massive cash deposit network with post office network and PayPoint network. We currently have over 40,000 cash deposit locations in the UK alone, which is really significant. And just to illustrate also what this actually delivers for customers is the ability in, let's say, rural areas where banks have closed branches, for example, and there is no ATM, there is always a post office.
Yeah.
So you can do your banking things, everything that you need, you can do at the post office. And so this is one of the ways we support customers.
And presumably, sorry, I was just going to say that, post offices in the UK actually quite like the partnerships as well, because it brings people in. So the post offices in the UK, I don't know if it's the same in Germany, but have suffered because people aren't visiting them as regularly, and so they're losing that footfall. So anything that brings customers in is helpful for them. So it's a beneficial partnership in both ways.
Yeah. Everyone is happy,
Yeah.
And we try to build similar partnerships in other countries as well. So instead of building up our own, let's say, ATM network, why don't you just partner with someone who has existing network? Then you can scale much faster and provide services much quicker.
So when we talked a lot about Europe, what about the US? I mean, forgive me, let me start with a question. Is Moniz available outside of Europe?
Currently not.
No. Okay. So, but there are, other services in those markets. And as we said, a lot of people are making moves towards those markets. Does Moniz currently have any plans to step outside of Europe?
Always. I mean, as I said, when we started, we really strive to be a global business. So the fact that we are only in 31 countries after 3-4 years after launch, it's to me this is very slow. So I want to cover the whole world, but I need to take this patiently. So definitely, I mean, even this year and beyond, we definitely aim to launch in new jurisdictions outside Europe. In Europe, we have found UK and Europe. We have found a pretty good product market fit. So we are still focusing on that, but new markets always around the corner to be
explored.
Yes, let's put it that way.
So what do you think, I mean, this is theoretical, this is not necessarily from your own experience, but what do you think is the biggest hurdle to companies saying they want to go outside of Europe? So I think Europe, particularly regulatory, can be quite the sympathetic relationships. It can be reasonably easy to sort of navigate in most places. My personal opinion is that when you look outside of Europe, it becomes more difficult from a regulatory perspective. Do you think that regulation is one of the biggest hurdles to moving outside of Europe, or are there others that you can think of?
If you talk specifically about financial services companies, then regulations play a really big role. And if you look at the markets such as US and so on, it's a completely different kind of beast.
Yeah.
And but that's just one side. It's the complexity. I mean, there are other banks on the ground already who are able to service guys like us. So it's complicated, but you can still do it. But then I think the market knowledge and you can't have the attitude that what works here definitely will fly over there. And there is no, it's not great if you underestimate the local competition as well, because US was a little bit behind, I think, but right now there are great banking companies popping up here, left, right, and center, acquiring millions of customers who have obviously nailed the product market fit over there. So yeah, just need to learn a lot before you go in, I guess.
Yeah. So are you talking about companies like Chime, perhaps in the States?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
They've done incredibly well. So Chime, I think, has acquired. I think it's 2 million customers, but I may be wrong, and we know them. So if Chris Britt is watching, then I'm sorry for getting that number wrong. But I think that's another important point as well. If we're talking about the market and the neobank market globally, you have a huge market in Europe, but the US is equally as big again, right? It's kind of a huge opportunity.
And there are other markets that are also really big.
Yeah. Well, India or China. Yes. I mean, I don't know how easy it would be to go to China. I imagine that would be quite a difficult one, but
tricky, definitely.
Okay, so we talked about just to come full circle there. We talked about hurdles. What was the biggest hurdle to you getting to 1 million customers? So we've talked about your success and kind of potential problems for expanding outside of Europe. But what was the most difficult thing you had to overcome to get to where you are today?
I think initially it was really basically finding a problem, real big problem to solve. I think that was just a huge win. So because we essentially we are very focused on financial inclusion at the end of the day. We're making things possible that were never possible or were super difficult before. So, and we're seeing that because of that reason, we early customers found us for that reason. But then there are, how do you go from here? In terms of company, also we are now 260 people in 4 countries. But I still feel, as a founder, I feel that we are still basically getting just warmed up. And but we added around 100 people to our product team and so on in the past 6-7 months. And if you scale quite rapidly, then the question is, how do you maintain your culture? How do you make sure that people who you are onboarding to your team are actually believers in what you're trying to pull off? And I think we have been really blessed because we have a really profoundly positive things that carries us, trying to really make a dent in the universe, so to speak. And I think that's a massive attraction when you are, trying to win great talented people who are also a little bit mission driven, to join your team. So, when you wake up in the morning and you have a big problem to solve and you want to go after it, it's just so much easier to build your culture. And so I think it's incredibly positive business, and that's has really taken us to our first million. And with money also, you talk to millionaires, they say the first million was always difficult to earn. I think with customers, it's also it's pretty much the same. Because then at some point you sort of you pick up wind a little bit, and then you kind of start flying. And as a founder also, you don't need to worry about dying every day. Financially,
your baby's good.
The baby's good. The revenues are coming in, and
So just one touch on there. One more thing to touch on there. Talked about you pick up speed. So once the ball gets rolling, you get faster. And we've seen that with Monzo arguably as well. How many of your customers come through referrals? I'm just wondering, because that just occurred to me then that today's topic is how to get to 1 million, or the success of getting to 1 million. It sounds like getting brand proponents out there is important. I would think it would be, but how many of your customers come in that way?
I'm glad you asked. We are incredibly blessed because right now we're seeing that anything between 70 to 75% of all new customers are coming through word of mouth. It's organic growth, which is incredible, and so we don't need to actually pump much money into marketing and acquire customers that way.
Although you've had some fantastic marketing campaigns.
Oh, thank you.
the Meteor springs to mind. If you don't know what that is, go and look it up. Thank you very much. I'm looking at Pet. Do we have any questions from the audience today? No? That's all right.
It must be the sun,
Yeah, we've covered everything. Actually, I think we're going to have an entirely comprehensive conversation.
Thank you.
So that's all we have for this week. Where can people find out more about you, Norris? Do you have a Twitter handle? And also, where can people go and apply for Moniz?
Yeah, exactly. So Moniz's Twitter handle is just Moniz, and my own is Norris Koppel with K. And Moniz.com is the address, or just download the app, Moniz, from App Store, and give it a go, and let me know how it feels.
Yeah, open to feedback.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. And you can find me on Twitter at Sarah Kocianski. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you want more insight at this but don't want to see my face, I can't think why you wouldn't want to see my face, but maybe you don't, you can listen to our FinTech Insider podcast. Sadly, you still have to listen to my voice if you do that. It's available on all your favourite podcast providers. We started a question segment on the podcast as well as on this. So if you have any questions for us, email podcast@11fs.com. And last but by no means least, if you want me sitting here talking about your favourite topic, hit us up on that email or just tweet us at FinTech Insiders. Thank you very much.
Thank you.